That's awesome. What state or country, Chris?
Well, that's how good Thomas does that. I'm not even sure. Kansas City, I believe.
I will go with that. I love it.
Yeah,
Hold on.
Kansas City, Missouri or Kansas. I'm not sure.
Chris, where are you now? Are you in Vietnam?
No, I've since we last spoke, I've relocated my family to Spain, and we just moved into our house this week. It's like fantastic.
What part of Spain?
Valencia.
I just took an apartment in Madrid for a month, and then I was in Barcelona. I really love Spain, but I want to talk to you offline. My brother is going to Vietnam, and he's taking like a major trip in January, and he was asking me whether he should go to Ho Chi Minh City, and I said I loved it when I was there, but I'd love to get your input. So I'll call you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, let's have a chat for sure.
That'd be great.
Oh my gosh, I'm so jealous. I want to go.
Right?
Okay, I'm letting everybody in, so just give me 2 seconds, but I'm super excited about today. Okay, y'all, happy Friday, first of all. Camera's on, don't be shy. This is going to be fun. We have Eric Orland in the house. While we're getting everybody in, Eric, I would love, because they hear from me, I'm going to introduce you in a second. I'll let you introduce yourself, but will you, we had a big announcement that came out of corporate yesterday. I know you and I've known about it for a little bit, but it was all announced yesterday. So I've been sharing this with all of them, but I would love for you to give your like elevator pitch perspective of what that opportunity means.
In terms of them having access to multiple levels as a new agent.
Yeah, the accelerator program. Yep.
Yeah, it's something that the company is obviously doing to spur growth. As we all know, we're all adults. There's been very little net growth over the last year at the company. And that's not a function of EXP. That's a function of the industry at large, right? So at EXP, where we're seeing all of the other companies and copycat models, quite frankly, losing their shirts in terms of earnings report like real. What EXP has done is we have not lost anybody at all in a very challenging market. So what the company through the accelerator program is doing is they're giving each and every one of you an opportunity to go out there as a new agent. Well, if you're a new agent, to go out there and identify a group. And if you identify somebody, what they'll do is they'll look at your business as if you have, 10 or 15 people, Elizabeth?
10, yeah.
So you'll be qualified on 3 levels. So that's huge. And I want to show you how important this is. So I had somebody in my organization who's a dear friend of mine. I used to coach them out in California, and she had a hard time getting traction and really kind of, getting any type of traction. She just, after 2 years, is bringing in a team of 12 to 15 people. And unfortunately, she's not going to be able to participate. So if you are a new agent and you have the ability to go out there and identify an organization, folks, this is immediate revenue right in your pocket. This is an income stream that each and every one of you, quite frankly, want, need, and desire. So make
and he's not saying new agent as in production. He's talking about to the company. Exactly. And so they actually retroactively went back to what I believe it's March 1st. So anybody that joined the company on or after March 1st. But what's happening now is conversations that we're all having with people. It's giving them that incentive to make a decision and get off the fence. And it's pretty exciting to see. So anyway, we're excited. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get us started. Y'all, thank you for being here this morning. I'm very, very excited to have our guest as Eric Orland. He's a friend of mine that we've always been kind of in the same rooms and the same paths, but we didn't really get to know each other much. We really never had that opportunity until we were thrown together in the Alliance and working on Rockstar Agent together. And so what I love about this company and I love about the collaboration we all have is Eric and I could not be more opposite. Right, in so many different ways, right? In our businesses, everything that I always say, yep, that's not me, I'm not even going to listen, la, 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 la. Eric brings like a different approach, and he's incredibly successful in ways that I'm not. And that's what's so cool. We learn from each other and we kind of figure out what works for each of us and what's authentic to us. And so one of the things with our group is I always want to bring value. I'm one person, I'm doing things one way, but that doesn't mean that's authentic to you or that's exactly how you want to run your business. And I want you to learn from everybody. So Eric, thank you for being here. He's out of Florida, and you're not Puerto Rico now, right?
I'm in
You're mainly
Puerto
Florida.
Rico.
Oh, you are Puerto Rico. All right. You keep saying you're moving back, but all right. So,
I am. It's tough to live here.
yeah. Yeah. Grass is not always greener, y'all. All right. So from Florida to Puerto Rico to soon to be Florida, this is Eric Orland. Eric, I would love for you to give them an overview of who you are, what you've done. You've been incredibly, incredibly successful. We've had Orlando Montiel in here before. You know, Orlando is one of my favorite people in the world. Eric brought Orlando to the company as well. So Eric, I would love for you to just share a little bit about you, and then I will give you share opportunity if you need to, you know, bring something on the screen, and just bring the fire, my friend. You've got the floor is yours.
Yeah, I absolutely love this organization. So I'm going to give you my background if I can just start with that. So I'm a middle child of two overachievers. So that should tell you everything, right? I'm completely screwed up. My younger brother is a vascular surgeon in Charlotte. My sister is a Yale physician married to a Yale physician. And quite frankly, you know, I graduated from UCLA in 1984, and I was always I had the middle child syndrome. I was out there playing beach volleyball in Hermosa Beach and refused to get a job. I had a very, very wealthy aunt whose family started Universal Studios. And they funded all of the fun that I was having in my 20s. I met a gal who wound up running the White House Women's Office for Bill Clinton and then ran Barack Obama's campaign. Her sister is Dee Dee Myers, the former White House press secretary. So I was marrying into a family that also had very high expectations. And here I was at 30 years old without a job, right? And my mother-in-law to be said to me, "Hey, Eric, have you ever considered selling real estate?" And I said to her, now keep in mind, I've never had a job, right? Why would I consider selling real estate? Isn't that for housewives? And she looked at me and she said, really? She said, do you know that the two top income earners here in Santa Clarita make over $1 million a year? One's name is Lou Fricke, the other is Dana Kellstrom. I said, I did not know that. But I was kind of forced into, you know, getting a job. So I got into residential real estate with the mindset of the following. I needed to be successful. And the reason I needed to be successful, on the outside, you know, I smelled like a rose, right? It dressed me up. But on the inside, I felt like I stunk like a skunk. I had zero sense of accomplishment in my life. I was really good walking into a room and making people smile, but I was empty. There was nothing. So I got into real estate with the mindset of not if I was going to be successful, but how successful I was willing to be. And that meant, Glenn, that I was willing to crawl over mountains or scale through rivers in order to have success. My second year in real estate, very cold calling intensive. I did over 128 units. I then moved back to Washington, D.C. to support my ex-wife who worked for Bill Clinton. And what I found is that I loved sharing with people how I was successful. I was willing to share the tools and systems that allowed my real estate business to flourish in a very short period of time, because I've always believed the more that you give in life, the more that you receive. And I also believe that if you're going to share with other people what you're doing, therein lies a sense of accountability, because you're now put it out there in public what you're doing. You have to continue doing those things. So I got into residential real estate. I started training people, and I've been a real estate coach for the better part of 25 years. I left for a couple of years to work for an investment banking firm by the name of Robertson Stevens, where I used the exact same skill sets that I developed selling real estate to have a really good career. I've been very good at making money. If I'm being very transparent, I'm terrible at keeping it. I am the world's worst investor. So that's just being as honest as I could be. At 58 years old, I hope I'm not getting emotional talking about this. At 58 years old, I wound up going bankrupt. That was 3.5 years ago. I'm now 62. Wound up going bankrupt. At the same time, I have one son who is the love of my life. You know, I put this child on a pedestal. And school did not come easy. He was raised in Northern California in a town called Burlingame. And I've always said to him, my mantra was, Jackson, if you work hard, I'll send you to any college that you want to go to. Well, Jackson worked hard and got into Syracuse University, which is a private school in upstate New York. It's about $80,000 a year. Sorry. And one of the most difficult conversations was having to look him in the eye with tears rolling down my face, saying, Jackson, sorry, Jackson, I can't afford to pay for your college. I didn't know how I was going to put a roof over my head or put food on the table. I had heard about the EXP model 3 years prior to this happening, when I was riding a wave of success. And when we're successful, that ego comes into play, that self-talk, oh, you're all this, you're all that. You never have to talk to a realtor and do this and do that. And here I was at 58 years old, not knowing how I was not only going to pay for my kids' education, but put food on the table or pay my rent. And I got into EXP again with the same mindset that I adopted when I first got into real estate, that I was willing to do anything to build an organization. And what I came to realize the following: I spent 3 years trying to blow holes into this EXP model. And folks, you know what I realized? There were no freaking holes to be. There were no holes that needed to be plugged. The model is the most incredible real estate model I've ever seen in my 30 years in the industry. It allows each and every one of us the incredible good fortune to have tools and systems that have never been seen before in the industry, technology that helps us identify buyers and sellers so we're more productive, a financial package that not only allows us to keep more of our commissions, but have ownership in the brokerage firm that we're helping to build, and the incredible opportunity to have for the company to share revenues where we can enjoy a passive and residual income stream, somewhat like a broker, without having any of the disadvantages of being a broker, meaning no liability, no out-of-pocket capital, right? And not having to train and manage agents, God forbid, right? I put my head down, I kept my mouth shut. Yes, I sponsored Orlando Montiel. I met him on a cold call. Each and every day, I had no one to call. I had been a coach for a long time in real estate, but when people heard that I had joined EXP, I became like the ugly stepchild with a bad case of acne. Nobody wanted to talk to me. I was the least popular kid on the block. What I made a commitment to doing is something that I hope that each and every one of you would do, is that I wasn't willing to leave this earth without leaving a legacy and feeling like I had a sense of accomplishment, that I was going out on top. And what I did is each and every day, I picked up the phone and I cold called people with the intent of not to sell them. People don't like to be sold, and you have an incredible leader in Elizabeth Riley. When you hear her speak, listen to her talk to you. It comes from her heart. In that way, we're very similar. So my mindset was, I'm not going to sell people in EXP. What I am going to do is I am going to approach people in the most spiritually healthy way possible by simply having this mindset, sharing the EXP platform with other agents. So they had the good fortune to compare and contrast what EXP had to offer them versus what they were getting at their existing brokerage firm. And what I came to realize was the following: that those agents, unless they were wearing blinders or had their hands over their ears, would have to acknowledge that this incredible platform aligned with their direction, aligned with the direction that they wanted to take their career much more often than not. Kept my head down, I kept my mouth shut. I had principles in place, a certain mindset and principles that I never, ever, ever strayed away from. And I built I haven't had tremendous growth, just like the company over the last year, but I've got over 2,300 agents. I just signed up what I believe is going to be the next Orlando Montiel. It's coming in with 200 agents this week. My business continues to flourish. I want you to really grasp the gravity of what I'm going to say now. I went from not understanding how I could go out and pay for McDonald's 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago, to creating a business that won't pay me one or two, but will pay me multiple millions of dollars a year for the rest of my life. I don't say that to brag. I say that as humbly as I possibly can. I just told you I was absolutely broke, dead broke. EXP has absolutely changed my life. This is an opportunity, folks, that you do not want to squander. Show me, as a former investment banker, show me one business that you can get into with zero money, a $64 investment, and turn that into a multiple million-dollar business by simply sharing from your heart how this incredible platform can change the trajectory of any realtor's business, whether they're here in the United States or on a global basis.
Pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. I mean, it's very powerful, because I think, Eric, a lot of these people, and I know this isn't a revenue share call, y'all, it's production, and wait till he gets into what he's talking about, but you've got to understand that so many of y'all, I've heard this. We're too late. We're too late. Oh my gosh, you got in 8 years ago. Oh my gosh, somebody 7 years ago, 6 years ago, 5 years ago. Eric, joined us 3 years ago. He didn't let excuses get in the way. He didn't compare himself to others. I tell you guys all the time, comparison kills joy. He knew what he knew. He knew what his why was and his goal. And by helping other people, Jim Rohn says that you get more out of life, you get more success, and success looks different from us. So what Eric's done, he's going to share too. Cold calling is not my thing, but again, some of the things that he said and that I've learned from him, I'm like, oh, not really cold calling. Don't think of it as cold calling. It's all about mindset. So Eric, I love that you shared that, and thank you for your vulnerability. I think vulnerability is a strength, not a weakness. And it's speaking to a lot of people. So I'm so glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here, Elizabeth.
So share with them kind of what you've done. And if you guys aren't muted, mute out. I'm trying to mute everybody out except Eric. Share what you've done. And so do you mind sharing some of the?
No, not at all. So, Elizabeth,
you know what I mean?
Yep. Elizabeth gave a great presentation on Rockstar Agent the other week. And she really talked about, she's an incredible marketer, and it comes so naturally to her, right? Going out there and utilizing vehicles like, the relationships that, her children go to schools, utilizing those relationships and really building the community from within. And I think it was brilliant. But for me, I thought to myself, Elizabeth has an incredible way of connecting with people, right? It almost is innate. For me, what I did is I moved from an area in Hermosa Beach, California, where I was playing beach volleyball, and moved up to Santa Clarita, which is north of LA County, the northern part of LA County. I didn't know one person, right? So my focus had to be picking up the phone or meeting somebody face-to-face via door knocking and asking them important questions, pertinent questions to identify if they had the need to buy or sell real estate within a specified period of time. My focal point was the following: building a database of people that I knew with certainty, based on the strength of the questions that I asked, had the need to buy or sell real estate within a specified period of time, and they were simply open-minded to have working with me as their real estate professional. If I say nothing else today, I want to get across the following to you. The size and the strength of your real estate business is predicated by the size and the strength of your database. Could we all agree, everybody on today's call, if you had 200 or 300 people in your database that you knew with certainty was going to absolutely buy or sell real estate within a 2-year period, and they were open to doing business with you, would you not have an easier time putting your head on your pillow at your night, knowing that you had a vibrant business? When you are not out there on a day-to-day basis engaging with people, you are decimating your business. I don't care if it's in investment banking. I don't care if it's rev share, or I don't care if it's selling real estate. When you got your real estate license, what does it say in that license? It doesn't say real estate professional. It says real estate salesperson's license. Folks, at the end of the day, it's important that you recognize selling is about solving people's problems and meeting people's needs. If you're not out there on a continuum, engaging, interacting with people, and asking appropriate questions so you can uncover those needs to solve and those problems to meet, you are doing yourself and your business an absolute disservice. My first year in real estate, I was very, very focused to simply go out there and have conversations with people. By the end of my first year in real estate, I had 800 people in my database that I knew with certainty, based on the strength of the questions that I asked, Kay. I knew I had 800 people in my database that were open-minded to transacting with me as their real estate professional, and they absolutely had the need for my services based on the strength of the questions that I asked them. I knew I was going to make over $1 million. Was I good at selling real estate? I don't know. I think the numbers speak for themselves. I probably knew less about a real estate contract than any real estate agent in California. Probably knew less about the contract than any other real estate agent. My time and effort, 99% of my day, was going out there and engaging people and building relationships, and then using a drip campaign to really solidify those relationships. So there's 2 aspects to look at. One is the prospecting, identifying an audience of people who have the need for your services and are receptive to doing business, right? That's key. But remember, the fortune is in the follow-up. It's having a drip campaign in place that really takes that relationships that you've identified and absolutely nurtures and cements it. So if you do anything short of drooling on somebody or highly offending them, there's a very high likelihood that they're going to utilize your services when they need to list their property or sell it. Anybody have any questions on what I just said?
I do.
Please. How are you?
Doing good, Eric. Dave Cheatham here. I'm in Sarasota, Tampa area.
Oh, nice.
I love what you just said about relationship building, because it's the kind of the key to my success in my career so far as an entrepreneur myself. What does that look like when you say building relationships? I'm sorry, I came in a little bit late. You may have already gone over this. So I apologize if so. But what does that, I know what it means for me to build those relationships, but I would love to know in your words what building relationships looks like to you initially, right?
Great. It's a great question. So listen, I have been really well trained in sales. You know, there was an aspect, I was the only person in the history of investment banking that didn't have an MBA from Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, the Anderson School at UCLA. I was a sociology major at UCLA. I mean, let's keep it real. So, you know, I needed to adapt a skill set. So I spent a lot of time refining my selling skills. Today, I don't even use the word, Dave, selling. Today, my whole focus is spiritually connecting with another human being. By understanding, it's not about me. I don't look at people as money. I look at people as being able to be of service to them, whether I'm selling real estate or whether I'm doing agent attraction. It is all about connecting. And when you come at life from that mindset, you're no longer, you know, feel like your back is up against the wall and you're constantly struggling. I'm looking to help people. I'm looking to be of service. It's a different mindset. And you know what makes somebody have that mindset? And you know that when you're doing that, when you become more focused on asking questions than speaking. When we are speaking, that is our ego speaking. We feel a need to be heard. We don't need to be heard when we're selling. We don't need to be heard. We need to spiritually connect by listening to others and asking appropriate questions so we understand how to guide them, how to help them, how to be of service to them. Did I answer your question, Dave?
You answered it, and you answered all the other questions I was about to ask you as well. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You know, keep on doing what you're doing, dude. It says, even the way you say hello, it just comes searing through. You know, the person that is constantly wound up thinking money, 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 money will never have money. When you focus on how you could be of service to people, how to connect with somebody, people are going to do business with you when they like you. I mean, look at Elizabeth Riley. The whole company loves her, right? People do business with you when they like you, when they trust you, and they deem you as being competent or responsive to their needs. It is about them. They are the star on the big screen, not you. You are there to sit in the audience and eat your popcorn and let them share with you what makes them tick. Very often, somebody will sell themselves. Remember, as a sales professional, the more you speak, the more there is of an opportunity. There's a window of opportunity. You know, Dave, you heard that window of opportunity. You go to buy a car, you go in to buy a car. And the salesman would say to me, you know, if you don't take advantage here, there's a window of opportunity, the prices are going to go up. Well, you know, we all know what that window of opportunity sounds like. We as salespeople have a window of opportunity to put a foot in one's mouth when we're over communicating. You don't have to over communicate. Less is always more. Less is more, less is more, less is more.
Do you feel like, I'm sorry, one more question, if you don't mind.
Fire away. It's your time.
Do you feel like, and I've discovered that this fact is very true, and I have this from a close friend of mine in California, Nicole Chuck. She's on my board of directors for my company. But do you feel like intentionality, your intentions of how you approach people, like you just said, is that important? And how have you molded those intentions to get away from the sales mindset? And for me, a lot of it is, you know, if you're familiar with Dr. Maxwell Maltz and with of course. I'm a total nerd, man, for sure. Like, I think you probably get me.
I got it. Like, the moment you start speaking, I'm a Bob Proctor. You know, I do Bob Proctor every day. I do Maltz. I do, you know, Neville Goddard. You know, the power. Yes, I knew exactly where you're coming from.
I love it. So how big is intentionality for you from your perspective and your experience?
It's key. It drives everything that I do, that I come at, life with a certain mindset. It's important for me to be successful, but being successful in a way that's true, allows me to be authentically me. So that's really important to me. And that starts with mindset. That starts from the moment I get up in the day. Let me show you what I mean by that. Hold on one second. Can you hand me my 5-minute journal? Right in my bag. If you wouldn't mind handing me my 5-minute journal, that's awesome. So,
Yeah.
my day, and I don't mean to
How,
go
how
hokey
important
here.
is that important to you to review a 5-minute review of your mindset each day? Is that what you do?
You tell me. I mean, right? That's every single
Yeah.
day. First thing I do when I get in the morning before I brush
Yes,
my
Eric.
5-minute journal, and I write, takes me less than 5 minutes to program my mind, right? So I write what I'm grateful for each and every day. And folks, if you don't realize what the hell you're grateful for, you got issues, right? Because we are healthy. We are all on this call. We are able to see one another. We are able to hear, we have so much to be grateful for. So I write 3 things that I'm grateful for. I write 3 things that would make today great. A great call with Elizabeth Riley's team was one of them. And daily affirmation. I write a daily affirmation each and every day. I then go on to meditate and visualize of people who I really respect. This is going to sound really weird. So there's a guy at EXP who's really impacted me, and I just love his demeanor. His name is Jesse Zarowski. I don't even know the guy. I've had 2 short conversations with him, but he's always smiling. He always seems so contained within. He seems so genuine with me, and he comes to me every single morning. And I visualize. Elizabeth, don't ever say anything because you think I'm weird, but I'm kidding, of
Little
course.
band crush over here, Eric.
I just think he's got it. I think that he's so appreciative of his wife, and hear him talking about his child. You never see a frown in his face. And I think intentionality is really, really important. I think you need to approach your business with the mindset that you are great. Because if you don't believe in your own greatness, nobody else will. Nobody else will. You must display a high level of comfortability and confidence in who you are and what you do. And that stems from you. You can't lead others. Remember, I've always believed that we have been ordained with the most important task. We help people make their biggest purchase, right? When they buy a home, or dispose of their most important asset when they sell a home. If you don't believe in the seriousness of the importance of what you do, nobody else will. I was a complete screw up until I was 30 and got into residential real estate. But when I got in, I believed that what I did was as important as what any attorney, whatever CPA did, that I was bestowed. Even you look at the words I use. I was ordained with the enormous task of helping people buy or sell their most important asset. And I never took that lightly. And because I didn't take it lightly, I was willing to learn all of the tools that allowed me to excel at a high level. One of them being objection handling, which I think I've done, spent a lot of time trying to master. That when someone gave me an objection, instead of looking at that person like a deer in the headlights, I wanted to, have that warm and fuzzy feeling, knowing that I was able to isolate, handle, and overcome that objection, any objection that I had gotten, in a way that made that person feel comfortable, so I could help them navigate around the problem that they were enduring, so they would ultimately buy my product or service.
Can we talk about some of those objections a little bit? Because one of the things I've recognized being around in your world a little bit more is how well and effortlessly you handle some of these objections, and where some of us might get stuck and stumble over how we want to respond. Yours is just very, very natural. So guys, I know he's very focused on attraction, but he does have production objections as well. First of all, what's helpful to y'all? And secondly, Eric, can you share some of I would love to know some of the attraction objections you get as well, and how you're overcoming those, because you are right. You're not focused on you, you're focused on them. And if you would share some of those, I think would that be helpful? I'm going to put gallery thumbs up. Would that be helpful to hear? Yeah. Shaking heads. Okay. What are some of the objections that you guys are seeing? Put in the chat, or Eric.
Elizabeth, you want me to pull it up on the screen? You want me to pull them up, the objections?
Perfect. Yeah. Let me give you, yep, there you go. You got it.
All right. So folks, remember, an objection is a pathway to a sale. That's all it is. An objection is a pathway to a sale. If you understand how to properly isolate, handle, and overcome it, what's going to happen is you are going, let me just pull up real estate training information. Okay. And now I'm going to isolate, handle, and overcome. There it is, right there. So I want you to think about this. What is the definition of insanity? doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. If you know that you are going to hear the same objection that's inhibiting you from earning $6, $9, $12, $15, $25,000, why in God's good name would you not take the time to understand the question that you're going to be asked? So instead of feeling nervous or uncomfortable, you could put the person at ease who is addressing an objection with you. You are going to hear the same 10 or 12 objections over and over and over. Common sense would simply dictate that if you know that the objection is coming, then you are readily prepared to help that person out so you could be successful in your profession of choice. And what I've done is, from the very beginning, I was in real estate. Before I ever went out and started selling property, I had gone to one of Daniel Penley's courses, and I didn't love all of his objection. These are all of my objection handling tools that over the last 15 or 20 years, I have refined and refined and refined. But there's three aspects to objection handling: isolating, handling, and overcoming. So if somebody said to you, are you willing to negotiate your commission? Let's use an easy one. Does anybody know how to isolate that objection? Are you willing to negotiate your commission? How would you isolate that objection? Other than
Jump in, y'all.
By asking a question.
Other than my professional fee for service, or other than my commission, is there any other reason that you would not list your home with me this evening? It's important to isolate, because once you're able to handle that objection, they've just told you that's their only objection. If they were to say, well, I've also got a friend in the business, other than having a friend in the business and my professional fee for service, is there anything else that's inhibiting you? So you always want to isolate. Once you've isolated, you now understand, you've put the bullseye, you've hit the bullseye. You understand precisely what you have to do in order to earn their business. So let's take the first one, right? Are you willing to cut your commission? I just asked that, right? So other than my professional fee for service, it's right here. Other than my professional fee for service, is there any other reason you would not list your home with me this evening? Right? No, Eric, that's pretty much it. Now watch, when you're objection handling, you are never, ever, ever going to talk at somebody. Who likes being talked at? I don't. I like being engaged with. So when you're objection handling, the first thing you do is isolate. The second step, this is a little crass, it's called sitting in your shit. What I do is, when someone gives me an objection, I first isolate, and then I formulate. If I was wanting to win an argument, if I was debating this person, Dave, what would I say, right? But I then remember, I'm not here to debate them. I'm not here to win the argument. What I'm going to do is I'm going to formulate what my response would be as if I was debating them. And what I'm going to do is take that response and put it in the form of a question to them. I now have moved away from talking at them and fully engaging them. Watch. Yep. If I can't negotiate my own professional fee for service properly, do you really want me to negotiate your most important asset in your behalf? Well, Eric, the other agent is, Elizabeth, if the other agent is so readily willing to cut their commission, how willing might they be to cut your asking price when negotiating against the agent representing the buyer? Well, you know what? That's, by cutting your commission, I'm going to save $10,000. If you simply cut your commission, and I go to what I call the doctor's close. I'm sorry to equate one's health to one's most important asset, but for the sake of this exercise, may I ask? Again, all of this is questions. If God forbid you needed to go to the hospital for a heart operation, and you were interviewing 3 cardiovascular surgeons to perform this operation, that would save your life, and the average fee for the operation was $10,000. May I ask, if the first doctor stood up and said, I'm a good doctor and I'll perform the operation for only $5,000, you'd probably be a little apprehensive or reticent to having them operate on you. Would you agree? If the second doctor stood up and said, I'm a surgeon that can save your life, and my fee for the operation is the standard $10,000, you'd probably be more receptive to them operating on you. Would you agree with that? But if the third doctor stood up and announced to you, I am the best cardiovascular surgeon in the world, and my fee to operate on you will be $20,000, and I will absolutely save your life, would you choose this person to be your surgeon? May I ask, why would you do anything less when dealing with your most important asset? We're talking about a small fee compared to the enormous value of your home. Is it really worth taking that type of risk? Don't you want, need, and deserve the absolute best representation when entrusting someone to market, negotiate, and successfully sell your property? So that was rehearsed, not so I sounded robotic. I internalized that. So when somebody gave me an objection, I was able to make them feel comfortable knowing how to respond in a calm, comfortable, and confident manner. And I'm happy to share all of this with you. These are all objection handling closes, the same thing that you're going to hear over and over and over. A buyer is willing to have you represent them if you identify a property that they choose to purchase. They want to work with multiple agents, but unwilling to commit to working directly with you. You're going to hear that over and over. So what I did is I took the time to put in place, I think there's 9 on here, 9 most common objections. And again, I use this so I had a compass, so I had a roadmap that allowed me to be successful when hearing an objection, because again, an objection is a pathway to a sale. I didn't get nervous. I actually like hearing an objection because if I handled it well, if I handled it properly, I've just earned a client. Any questions on this at all?
So good.
So this is really,
Couple
really
questions
important.
in the chat.
Yep.
Well, first, Chris Reed says, take my money, sales gone. So that's awesome. Laura Cates is asking, I'd like to know how you open the conversation with agents who aren't asking. And then Lizette is asking if we can get a copy of this document, if you're okay sharing it in our group.
Of course. I will email this to Elizabeth and have her
Okay.
discuss it to all of you and utilize.
You're awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely utilize this. The other question, when I'm talking, is she talking about agent attraction, Elizabeth? How do I approach somebody?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. So my first intent is to build a rapport with somebody using the acronym FORD, right? Asking people questions about their family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. You know, it comes so naturally to somebody like Elizabeth, right? I could watch her in awe sometimes. I'm more socially awkward, if you will. You know, I don't think people ever get that. In some ways, I'm really shy. In some ways, I am really, really shy. So I know that asking people, using the acronym FORD, again, always gives me a direction that I'm able to take a conversation by asking appropriate questions, right? So if I'm engaging with somebody, and I have a call coming up, I was going to do this live with you guys, but it's going to be too late.
That'd be fun. No, you can't.
It's going to be like 11:15. I'm going to head out to the airport, but this is what I do in a call, right? So I'm engaged with somebody. I'll ask them, you know, in an effort to get to feel for who you are, would you mind sharing with me a little bit of background? But when you ask somebody a general question like that, it's very hard for them. So I'll be very specific. What I mean by background, would you mind sharing me, are you from this area originally? And would you mind sharing with me the level of success that you've had as a real estate professional? I usually will open up with that. And then I'll talk about, you know, how many transactions. I'll ask them how many transactions they've done over the last 12 months. If they've done a really good job, I'll ask them what they attribute to their success. Of course, I'll ask them how long they've been with their existing brokerage partner. And then I'll ask 2 very, very important questions. One is, what do you like best about the working relationship you have with your brokerage? How do they help you build your business? What do you, again, like best is having them as your brokerage partner? My next question is where I'm identifying their pain points. Really important, right? If I'm truly understanding them, I can't be of service if I don't understand them. I'll ask the following, Dave, may I ask, what would you do to change or modify? What don't you like about the existing relationship you have with your current broker? Dave may say to me, you know, Eric, I'm not keeping enough of my commissions, or there's not enough training. Watch. Dave, would you be open-minded? And yes, I use the word open-minded. Who knows, why do I use the word open-minded? Why do I use the word open-minded? Would you be open-minded?
Nobody wants to admit that they're closed-minded.
Exactly. Nobody's going to call themselves ignorant. If someone's closed-minded, they're calling themselves ignorant. Dave, would you be open-minded to a brokerage platform that allowed you to keep more of your commissions and provided you that all-important training that you're seeking, so you had access to the tools and systems that would elevate your business? Dave, if the platform aligned with the direction that you would ultimately like to take your business by offering you multiple streams of income, one of which happens to be a passive income stream. Is that something you might find compelling? Would you be simply open to exploring this with me? That is what I call the open-ended question. So it is an open-ended question. Would you be open-minded to exploring a brokerage platform that allows you to keep more of your commissions and maybe aligns, Dave, with the long-term direction you would like to take your real estate business by offering you multiple streams of income, one of which, by the way, happens to be passive? Is this something you would find compelling? And would you be simply open to exploring this with me? Does that make sense, Lizette, what I just said?
Yes.
So more often than not, someone's going to say to me, yes, I would be open. And if they push back, what is that? If they push back, what would that be? It's an objection. I'm prepared to that, for that. You know, Lizette, wouldn't it make sense? I'm sure you and I would agree that we don't just go to work to sell real estate, but we also go to work. We also work in real estate to keep what's more of what is rightfully ours. If this brokerage platform allowed you the good fortune to better take care of yourself and your family financially, would that not be advantageous to you? Could you be in any better position, Lizette? Again, these are all questions, to simply compare and contrast what EXP is able to offer you versus what you're receiving from your existing broker to see which one best aligns with the long-term direction you'd like to take your career. Would you agree? Your career is probably worth 15 minutes of your time.
Of course.
So when I ask that question, I'm going to say my conversion ratio on them telling me yes is probably 70%. And then where I lead to that is the following, is Lizette, I'm going to take the liberty of sending you out 2 short videos. These videos, pardon me, let me back that up. What I'll say to you, Lizette, I'm clearly not asking you for any commitment today. The only commitment I'm going to ask you for is the following. I'm going to take the liberty of sending you out 2 short videos. These videos will give you a great overview why EXP is the fastest growing real estate company in the history of real estate and how this incredible platform may ultimately be a benefit to you and your business. It will also, Lizette, allow you to formulate any questions that you'd like me to provide answers to when I follow up with you. Will you be able to commit to watching this video within the next 24 to 48 hours? And I close for the appointment. I don't make it, it's as simple as that. But I have rehearsed this script. I can't tell you how many times I say this a day, over and over and over again. Remember, you have to internalize, and you don't have to use the exact words I'm using other than open-minded. But I believe that if you are comfortable asking these questions, you could approach any realtor that's out there. I met Orlando Montiel on a cold call. I didn't even know who he was. I had moved from California to Florida, and I was in Florida for a couple of months, and I was sitting around with a group of guys in my apartment in Miami Beach, and I said, what is the name of the Spanish-speaking real estate coach here in Miami? And they said, Orlando Montiel. A month later, he came in. This guy who I just brought in this week, major player in the Florida market. I met him on a cold call. I did a Zoom call like I'm doing now. There were 40 people watching me in this cold call. And I asked him the question, would you be open-minded? He said, absolutely not. I said, would you mind sharing with me what aspect of the EXP platform don't you find intriguing? Is it the fact that you'd be able to keep more of your commissions or have ownership in the brokerage firm that you're helping to build? I courted this guy for a year and a half. I can't tell you how many texts, how many phone calls, how many email drip campaigns went out to him. He sends me a text 60 days ago and said, Eric, do you believe that life is about timing? I said, I sure do. He said, I'm ready to get married. And that was it. Focus on the relationship. Remember, the fortune is in the follow-up. The fortune is in the follow-up. Stay engaged, focus on the relationship, and your business will pour down levels of success that you never imagined possible.
I have a question, Eric. After you finish that call and send those videos, how do you follow up with them? How do you reach out to them? Because that's kind of a huge thing after, right? Unless they are interested and, and reach out, what do you do?
So I
besides that?
close for the appointment on that first phone call. Would you commit to watching the video within the next 24 to 48 hours? And I schedule an appointment right then and there. My next call with them is what we call a ratings call. And I start with what we call a suggested, I start with an assumptive close, right? Was that not the most incredible brokerage platform you've ever seen? Have you ever recognized a platform that provides that level of coaching, training, support, and technology while giving realtors the opportunity to have a level of financial security or stability that have never been recognized before? So I start with an assumptive close. That's the only thing or question I ask. And then again, my whole focus reverts back to making them feel comfortable and understanding how I can be of service. I will ask them, I'm sure that some questions came up for you. I'm here to try to answer any of those questions. What do you have for me? And I'll answer any questions. And then I'll wrap up the call by rating them. And I'll say something as silly as, if you wouldn't mind, letting me know where we stand. Before we hang up the phone, I'd like to understand your feelings about EXP on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 having absolutely no interest to being a part of this amazing brokerage platform, or 10, you understanding specifically how this company is going to help take your business, elevate your business to the next level. On a scale from 1 to 10, where do you sit at right now? Eric, I'm at an 8. May I ask, what would it take to move that needle from an 8 to a 10? And again, what am I asking for by asking that question? I'm asking for them to give me their objections so I could go back to isolate, handling, and overcoming. So the rating question puts me in a position to go back to what I said to you before. It puts me in a position to objection handle. And once I'm able to isolate, handle, and overcome that objection, I've just earned a new client.
Y'all see how
That's
easy
right.
he makes this and it doesn't sound salesy. I mean, he's internalized this. This is not something that he just looked at really quick and just was winging it. I mean, he was very intentional in learning what to say, how to say it naturally, so people feel comfortable and it's a conversation. So I think we get hung up on scripts, the word scripts. But to Eric's point, it's not robotic. It's not reading from a piece of paper. It's really truly about making these words your own. And maybe you won't say something like, one of these sentences, but figure out how to reword it so that it is natural coming from you.
Definitely. I only script because I want to be in control of a conversation. The person who's asking questions is the person who's in control. Could we all agree on that? I'm doing it right now, aren't I? I could do this for the next 2 hours, couldn't I? This is called a tie down, isn't it? So the goal is to ask questions. I use scripts so I understand what questions to ask so I remain in control of conversation and gather the necessary information I can to be of service to another individual. But like Elizabeth said, my goal is never, ever to sound robotic. My goal is to connect. And I do this by internalizing these scripts so I never feel uncomfortable or, I never lack confidence approaching somebody because I know exactly what questions I'm going to ask them in a very heartfelt manner.
Yeah. There's some questions about what platform you use for follow-up. Is that something, I mean, I know there's a bunch of them out there. Do you have some, I think you have some favorites, but I just don't know.
You mean is this for attraction? Is this for attraction, Elizabeth?
They're asking in the chat for attraction. Yes.
I wasn't going to do this. I never kind of blow up my own system, but I have a system that I've created and we've made it for sale. I'm going to reduce the price significantly, so I don't want you to buy it now. Elizabeth's a friend. So it's called Attraction Flow. A lot of the key people at EXP have endorsed it. Brent, Sheila, Fajeron. I've trained a lot of their teams. It's called Attraction Flow. It's scripts, it's tools. I prospect weekly, every Thursday from 2 to 4. I prospect with everybody that's a part of Attraction Flow. We're currently selling it for $795. I'm going to make it available for like $99 or $199 within the next 4 to 6 weeks. It's a no-brainer if you're serious about agent attraction. I don't want you to buy it now though, because we are going to reduce the price and I feel uncomfortable about doing that. So I'm going to reduce the price within the next month or two, but it's called Attraction Flow. If you go to attractionflow.com, just like it sounds, ATTRACTION flow, FLOW.com, you'll see it. It's all about mindset. It's all the different scripts. It's videos of me making calls. It's brokerage comparison calculators. It is a 10-point flow chart that is pretty much automated. And we also do your drip campaigns, which are sent out to clients on the 1st and the 15th of every month. So you stay top of mind. we allow the system to work for us to really nurture and cement that relationship going forward.
And
Yeah, just
I think that's amazing. I mean, I think it's amazing too, that you're like, just wait and see how that works. But I know there's some others that use CRM Grow. I think what I'm hearing is yours from other people. The feedback I'm getting is yours is much easier and better tool and system. And so I think the best one to use is the one you're going to use. But when that comes out, will you let us know and I can share it out to the group?
I will. So what I'm doing with Rob, by the way, Elizabeth, I want to be really transparent about this, is we're creating a CRM that is better than CRM Grow, that will have all of our templates, all of our automations, all of our drip campaigns. So you're getting everything in one. You know, right now with CRM Grow, it's a CRM, but if you don't have the scripts, if you don't have the tools, if you don't have, you know, the automations, it's of no benefit. So we will have, we'll reprice this and have a CRM in place within the next, like I said, 4 to 6 weeks.
That's amazing. Thank you, friend. Tomas has his hand raised.
Tomas,
Or had his
yeah.
hand raised.
I just want to mention, Eric, that we paid the full price for the attraction flow a few months ago, and it was completely worth it.
Thank you,
So if you
That's
wanna
what y'all are
reimburse
using,
us-
Tomas? I didn't know that's what you were
reimburse us
using.
the other part.
Yeah, I always have to be careful
for...
what I say, Tomas.
No, I'm kidding. No, it was completely
No.
valuable, and we just signed on a new agent just 1 hour ago, and we use completely like everything that you state. We duplicated to ourselves. But I thought like CRM Grow was actually intertwined with attraction flow. Like, is it not? I thought you were involved in that as well.
No, I have no ownership. I have nothing to do with CRM Grow. What I'd like to do is house everything under attraction flow. So it will be a model. So it will be a CRM similar to CRM Grow that has less bells and whistles, that's simple, easy to use, that has all of our automations, all of our drip campaigns right there at your fingertips. So you're not going back and forth between attraction flow and CRM. Everything will be in one system and it will be cheaper for you.
I'd love to hear about that, because I use CRM Grow. I think CRM Grow is great. I do think it could get better. So if you're telling me that, I'll definitely be interested.
And what you could do is you can merge over all of your contacts, all of the scripts will be in there. It's just a much easier solution. And we've been asked to do this by several of the people that have had, you know, really good success using attraction flow. We listened, and, you know, we're able to lower the price of attraction flow from $7.95 to, you know, $99 or $199, and, you know, just have our CRM in place. So it makes it much more easy for people to join. And I also think the more successful that each and every one of us are, guess what? It makes my job easier, because you're out there building your own organizations, you're creating a brand, you're enhancing our brand. So part of this, I love doing this, is not only did I create attraction flow because it's something I use that keeps me focused, that allows me to grow my business, but I also share this with everybody in my organization so they can go out there and have the success that they're looking for.
Well, and also something to keep in mind, Eric and I aren't in the same organization at all, by the way. Okay, this is a beautiful thing about EXP. We all cross train and cross help each other. And so what Eric just said too is, well, you know, the more you win, the thing to keep in mind is we're all still EXP. So the more we win, the more Eric wins, because the stock goes up, the company's doing better. We're all owners of this company. So you have to think of it a little bit differently too, as opposed to just one lane. So we're all winning together. And I think that's what's really cool, where we come in and help each other out. And Eric spending an hour of his very valuable time just opening up his playbook. It's pretty cool.
Elizabeth, thank you for having me today. I love talking about this because I love this company so much. I love it from a personal perspective, that it allowed me to change my life and take care of those that I love in a way that I never dreamed possible for you, 3.5, 4 years ago. But folks, be proud, be EXP proud. Know that you could speak to any realtor in the world, and you've got something spectacular. Remember, EXP, we're the fastest growing real estate company on the planet. We've got first mover advantage. We were the first company to adopt being cloud-based. Right? We've got significant market share. We've got leaders like Elizabeth Riley and Mike Sherrard and, Gene Frederick. I can go on and on and on. When I look at somebody, I know in my heart of hearts, nobody is bigger than EXP. That no matter how big an agent is, that I've got something to share with them that could absolutely transform their business and put them on better financial footing than they had ever realized possible. Embrace the opportunity that you have. It's not going to get a whole lot better than this. EXP is revolutionizing, absolutely revolutionizing residential and commercial real estate. Be proud, go out there and embrace this opportunity, grow your organizations, have fun with this, and know that when you're out there providing service to somebody by simply asking them to compare and contrast, you are doing them a favor. They're not doing you a favor. You are doing them a favor by going out there and introducing this platform and spending your time. Remember, your time is worth money. All of you have the right to have the success that you want, need, and desire. Embrace that. Really embrace that. And have a kick-ass weekend.
Eric, you're awesome. So Eric's going to send me the document. I will put it in our tribe group. I want you guys to implement this. Let's share some success stories with Eric. I want him to know the impact that he's made this morning with all of us. Eric, my friend, thank you. And for everybody else, thank you guys for joining this morning. Have an amazing weekend. And then we will see you guys next Friday.
Elizabeth.Riley@exprealty.com.
Sometimes I get that email. I'll send it to you, Eric. I'll send it in workplace. I'll send my last one. Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me.
All right, guys.
Have a great weekend. I enjoyed this. Really enjoyed sharing. You made my day today spectacular. Thank you.
You're amazing. We'll see you guys soon.
Bye, guys.
Bye.